Certainly many perspectives on the assassination attempt of the former president this weekend. Let's get one from a retired Congressman, John Katko. You know him. He's the Republican who represented our area for 8 years in Washington. John, thanks so much for making time for us on this issue.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. It's sad to have to discuss it, but it's important that we have the dialogue, for sure.
Yeah, I'm very curious what your first reaction was to the news on Saturday evening.
Well, I'm a contributor to ABC, and I was in line to go live, so I was watching it because everyone thought he was going to announce his vice presidential running mate, and so I was watching it real time, and it was shocking. But, you know, if you look back on our nation's history, presidential candidates and presidents have routinely been the subject of assassination plots. Some have been successful and some have not, thank God. And this is just another in a long line. So while it was shocking to watch, in the end, it's not that surprising, sadly.
Yeah, I'm very curious, and a lot of us were wondering kind of what sorts of threats you faced as a congressman, because you certainly served in what many would consider a very toxic environment as well, and didn't always toe the party line. And did you ever think anybody would actually act on one?
Well, listen, I can tell you one thing. The amount of threats that we all received in Congress were substantially higher than they were even 5 years before or 10 years before. And it seems like the rhetoric, the longer we were in Congress, got more and more heated. And that was followed by a dramatic increase in the number of threats we all received. And they were all, some of them were very serious, quite serious. And many of us were under protection because of it. And that's just the sign of the times, I guess. You know, especially after January 6th, it was very real.
Curious what you thought. I'm going to go back to this weekend again a little bit of President Biden's public comments. He spoke a couple of times, addressed the nation this weekend. What did you think of what he had to say?
Well, quite frankly, the content was fine, but given his cognitive condition, it really didn't move the needle much, I don't think, because you didn't get the feeling when you're watching that. You felt warm and strong that we're watching a great leader here. And I'm not saying it from a partisan standpoint. But I can tell you that the words were fine and they were appropriate. It's just the delivery, it's just not there, and it's not going to inspire many people, I don't think, unfortunately.
So what do you think the impact is? I don't think anybody was just waiting to hear from the president. They wanted to hear from the president. They wanted to hear from lots of people. People are digesting it in different ways. I'm curious how this is sitting with the American public today.
Well, I think everyone wants the rhetoric to be toned down. Everybody wants things to just breathe a bit, right? On the national political scene, it's been boiling for years, and both sides are guilty of it. And they can point out the figures they want at the other side, but if people look at themselves first and realize some of the things they were saying they shouldn't say, I think we'd be a better country. I think that we've lost our moral compass to some extent. We've truly lost the moral middle ground, if you will. And that's the biggest problem I see, is that both sides don't want to think about the other side, and therefore they don't really care. And that's where we are. And I'm hoping this week, I think the president has a very unique opportunity, President Trump, rather, has a very unique opportunity to change dramatically the tone and tenor of how he conducts himself. I'm not sure he has the discipline to do so. I certainly hope he does, because that's what the American people want. And I think we need it from both sides, for sure.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, we got about a minute left, what direction you think the campaigns go. You spoke a little bit about that one. I know Biden campaign pulled some ads off this weekend to be a little bit more sensitive. Where does everybody go from here, do you think? Is it right back into it again, attacking one another, or?
Well, words are one thing, but actions are quite another, as my father would always say. And actions speak louder than words. And if their actions show that they're serious about toning the rhetoric down, that I think the American people will appreciate that. But I hope them and their surrogates all understand that we've got to tone things down, and we've got to get back to some sort of moral compass in our country, and understanding that you have disagreements. Disagreements does not mean you have to hate the other side. Disagreement just means we disagree and we move on. Listen, everything we do in our lives is a compromise. Our spouses, our relationships, our jobs, everything is. So politics should be attunement. We're not there right now. We need to get back to that.
Retired Congressman John Katko. John, you know I always enjoy catching up with you, hearing your thoughts on things. Also, ABC News contributor. Appreciate your time. I'm sure we'll be talking to you again pretty soon.
Sure thing.